Hello there, Kenny Zook here. I'm head preacher for the Church of Leave OPP, but today I'm not going to leave him be down at Monday Morning Quarterback. No, they've actually put the icing on the cake and really given the most horridly flawed assessment of the Bears for 2019 vis-a-vis the impending meltdown of the defense of the Bears because they can't survive the loss of Vic Fangio, and how could Chuck Pagano possibly do anything to help them with the terrible loss of manpower in the form of Adrian Amos and Bryce Callahan. So we'll get to Chuck Pagano and whether or not he's got the chops to deal with the massive losses in a moment, but let's talk about those massive personnel losses the Bears secondary has suffered in the offseason. We've lost Adrian Amos and ended up with Clinton Dix. Clinton Dix was a first-round draft pick, and he was actually playing like it. If you look at his numbers compared to Adrian Amos's numbers, he was making way more tackles. And when he started to drop off in tackles, he spiked in interceptions to a level that Amos never had. And he's a guy who was unceremoniously dumped sometime after Dom Capers got fired. Interestingly enough, Mr. Dix, when coming to Chicago after not impressing Washington, confessed that what he brought to the Bears was that he was a product of great coaching. And he mentioned Dom Capers and Nick Saban. And interestingly, not Mike Pettine. I think Mr. Dix is about to show us what he's capable of with a coach that he puts on his great coaches list, we hope, and works in between the likes of the rest of the Bears defense. And I think that Mr. Adrian Amos is going to find out just exactly what it was that makes Mike Pettine not hit the list of great coaches that Clinton Dix has played for. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Adrian Amos. In fact, I was one of the people that was thrilled to death when, after getting spanked out of his starting job by rookie Eddie Jackson and aging veteran, I think they were calling him when he came in, Quentin Demps, he responded by coming back when Demps went down and actually playing like he had been playing in his rookie season, outplaying his fifth-round draft pick status. I don't see any reason why he's going to slow down. I do see him going off of this Bears squad and on his way to play for Mike Pettine. I wish him the best of luck. Mention Quentin Demps, though. There's another defensive back who's coming in with a similar kind of fanfare to what Quentin Demps did back in 2017, for those of you who have forgotten. This time around, it's a fella called Buster Skrine. He's coming in to replace Bryce Callahan, who, by the way, was an undrafted free agent who invented himself in Chicago with the help of Vic Fangio. So it was invented by Vic Fangio in Chicago, in the midst of an extreme amount of talent, an ever-growing amount of talent, and to not a whole lot of fan appeal, really. PFF liked him for a couple of years before the Bears fans finally started coming around, and now suddenly, oh, it's such a loss. Well, look, I've said for years that he was a way better slot corner than he was getting credit for. Yeah, he's a top-notch corner, but he's a top-notch nickel corner, which is almost a starter. It's not going to be quite as many snaps, almost enough to qualify as a starter over maybe some other people on the defense, but nonetheless, a nickelback. And who are we replacing that nickelback with? Well, we have the aging veteran Buster Skrine, but let's say that the counterpart to Adrian Amos in the 2019 Bears equation is going to be Duke Shelley. You've got Buster Skrine and a sixth-round draft pick, Duke Shelley, who people are already saying, could he push Buster Skrine? Oh, well, I hope he can. That'd be awesome. I'd like to see him start out taking whatever percentage of snaps they may have in mind for him, and slowly but surely through the year with his good play, taking snaps away from Buster Skrine, and maybe Buster Skrine can fly off and get himself another big contract somewhere, and Duke Shelley can just take over as our starter after that. Or, maybe Buster Skrine will take a deal and just be Duke Shelley's backup if that makes him happy. By the way, Mr. Callahan, I have to say, was a player headed in the right direction. He went from being a UDFA who was not particularly well respected by the fans to he went from missing 7 games to missing 5 to missing 4 to missing 3. He's headed for a full season in another several years at his current rate. Maybe he'll go a little faster than that going for him. So here's the math on that last bit. If Buster Skrine can be for Duke Shelley what Quentin Demps was for Adrian Amos, whoa, look out for a hot, young, affordable for a while nickel corner. Now on to Chuck Pagano. So first, let's look at old Chuck's resume, because everybody's making a lot of noise about it. Oh, he doesn't have that much experience, and Vic Fangio is such an experienced defensive coordinator. And I'll spot you that, yes, he does not have as much experience as a defensive coordinator as Vic Fangio, and he does have experience as a head coach, so he knows something that Vic Fangio doesn't yet, and that is that a lot of defensive coordinators make really crappy head coaches. Just saying, it happens. You also have to discount his college career as a coach, Chuck Pagano, if you want to say only 1 year as a defensive coordinator. He interrupted his 11 years as a defensive backs coach in college ranks to be the defensive coordinator at UNLV, the Running Rebels. Yay, Running Rebels! And then later, after being a defensive backs coach in the pros for 6 years, took a time out for a year, went and was defensive coordinator for North Carolina for a year before coming back and becoming the defensive backs coach for the Baltimore Ravens, who were growing that Super Bowl defense at the time It was the end of those 3 years where he took his 1 year as a defensive coordinator in the pros. And let's see what happened during that year that Mr. Pagano was the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens in 2010, pre-Pagano, had a pretty stout rushing defense. They were 5th in the league in yards allowed rushing, had 10 fumble recoveries for the year. Under Pagano, they were 2nd in yards allowed, and again recovered 10 fumbles. Passing yards allowed without Pagano, they were 21st in the league, but they did have 19 interceptions. Under Pagano, they did fall off a little bit, down to 15 interceptions, even with all of Pagano's defensive back coaching experience. Of course, they did kick up to 4th in the league from 21st for passing yards allowed. Passing plays over 20 yards, they went from 23rd to 8th. For rushing yards 20 plus, they went from tied for 3rd to 1st. Of course, that's only going from 6 allowed to 4 allowed. You're not supposed to allow really long rushing plays. In fact, same goes for 40 plus rushing. They went from tied for 17th, which is only 2, to where they ought to have been, tied for 1st with 0. 40 plus passing. Okay, there's the fall off. Here's the fall off you have to look forward to, Bears fans. The fall off was in the 40 plus yards passing plays. They went from tied for 4th with a total of 5 of those plays to tied for 9th with a total of 8 of those plays. Still top 10, still less than 10. And oh, by the way, the one other difference statistically between the 2010 Baltimore Ravens and the 2011 Baltimore Ravens, they went from tied for 27th with a total of 27 sacks. Cool numbers, I can't make that up. 2, tied for 3rd with 48. Yeah, sounds like the risk-taking Pagano when confronted with a superior defense is going to doom those boys. Do the math. Bears defense is going to rock it. And that's going to make it easier for Mitch Trubisky to score early and score often and get them playing downhill. And it's a steamroller. Consider yourselves warned. The Bogans are coming, dressed like Chicago Bears. Going to lay an intergalactic highway right through the NFL. You heard it here.